Hi guys, welcome back to Private Paint Party here on YouTube. We have a fun painting today. We're going to be painting a lovely giraffe. Want to see? Here we go. That's what we're going to be making today, step by step, walking you through all of it, hopefully making it easy and chill, relaxing and fun. Hope you can just set up and enjoy with a cup of coffee or a cocktail or whatever, and time with friends or time to yourself, whatever you may need. But yep, I'm going to be painting this fun, cute giraffe today. So I've got my supplies all set up. Let me show you those real quick. But if you want to know some more info, go see one of my previous videos. I've got a whole video just about the supplies, or you can go watch my very first video, the octopus painting, where I walk you through that a little more in depth. But these are the paints I've laid out so far. White, cad yellow, yellow ochre, permanent rose. I've got a cerulean blue and a burnt umber brown. I'm using this set over here by Winsor and Newton, but I didn't need all the colors, so I didn't want to waste paint. I didn't lay them all out. I skipped the lemon yellow in this case. I skipped, I actually need to put out cad red actually, but I skipped the ultramarine blue because we won't need that, and the phthalo green. We are using that raw umber though, so I am glad I was looking at this and I saw that I need to put out this other red because we're going to make an orange. That's the cad red. There you go. See? But this is a great set. It's like 20 bucks on Amazon. Highly recommend it. You can find a link down there in the description. We've also got 3 brushes, small, medium, and large. And that, as far as sizing, is just proportionate to your canvas. I recommend a pointy, a round brush for your smaller one, and the flats for the medium and the big. And a water cup, something to put your canvas on. Doesn't even have to be an easel, but I've got an easel in this case. Canvas, something to, protect your stuff, and we can jump right in. So we're gonna do something that I think is a really fun technique, and that's to do a bright, colorful underpainting, a color that almost doesn't seem like it's in the scene, but really does actually kind of tone everything together, tie it together, and makes the colors just bright and luscious. So I'm going to make an awesome pink. You see that rose color, the permanent rose? I've got that on my big brush, and I'm going to mix it with white to make like a light pink, partially because I don't need the really dark pink. That would be a little bit hard to fight in terms of laying color on top of it if it was a little too dark. And also just this makes the paint go a little further, that white, and there. Okay. So I'm going to dip my brush into my water just a little bit. See, I got a couple drips there. If you get a lot of drips, that's no bueno. But if you just have a couple, that's all right. It just keeps the paint moving and flowing. And you just want to be able to get it on your canvas real quick. And you're making, like I said, just a really nice, vibrant, beautiful pink underpainting that will tone the whole canvas. So I need to mix up some more paint. It goes pretty fast here. There, lots of fun pink. I'm not trying to make some sort of super smooth color or anything like that. I'm just trying to get the color on the canvas, covering up all the white canvas. So again, it's okay if it's a little extra watery. We're using acrylic paints, by the way, in case I forgot to mention that. That's what most of these paint and sip type classes use. And my aim and hope for this video series is that people who want to be able to do this at home, maybe you're more introverted, don't like the idea of going out, being with the big group, or maybe you just want to be able to like invite 4 or 5 friends to your house and be able to paint just with them in your own private space. You can put this up on the TV and set up your paints and supplies and have fun painting together. That's what I am hoping for. All right, almost there. Like I said, I'm not going for something perfectly smooth. I'm just going for overall coverage. And sometimes I think some brush strokes actually look kind of fun. You can adjust how pink you want this to be. You know, if you want a little bit deeper pink, like I said, I recommend not just using straight permanent rose out of the tube. That'd be a little too dark. But I decided I wanted it to be just maybe a little bit more poppy here. So you can add a little bit more of the pink in if you want. That permanent rose almost looks red coming out of the tube, but it is a more cool tone red, so more of a magenta pink type of color that can make these awesome tones when you mix it. So I think I am pretty happy with that. So believe it or not, we're kind of done with the background for now, and we're going to move along and start drawing our giraffe next. We just want to let this dry, but we're going to be drawing with the umber color, that brown, and because that's so much darker, we can just draw right on top of this. We don't even have to worry about the fact that it's still wet. And then later we're going to add some blue on top. And then, like I said, it's such a fun effect to have the bright underpainting kind of mix in and show through a little bit underneath our blue sky. So I want you to switch to your smallest brush, the more pointy round brush. Get that umber color, that brown, and let me walk you through the basic steps to start drawing our giraffe. So of course he has got a big long neck and we want to have plenty of room for that. So what I want to say is I want you to find what feels like the very, very middle of your canvas and draw a little line. To me, that feels about like the middle. Now, I want you, if you can, to imagine the top half there and see if you can find the middle of it again. So you're kind of doing quarters, right? So from the top to this line, what's halfway from the top to this line? I'd say about there. And that is going to be the head space. And that leaves all this space for the neck. And you can adjust, of course, if you want to make the head a bit bigger. But if you watch my other videos, you'll hear me say over and over again, I think it's always better to err on a little smaller at first because it's so much easier to make it a bit bigger than it is to go the other way around. So err on small first, and then you can always make it bigger. So what we're going to do is at this line here, you're going to make a curve, kind of like a U shape, about like that. That's going to be kind of his lip. And then next, we'll kind of roughen that neck. It kind of just starts right here around the sides here of this U shape we just did. And you can draw straight down if you want. I like to give it a little bit of an angle. Kind of like, you know, he's poking his head out, his neck out, literally, to see us. So kind of like that. And then let it get just a little bit wider at the bottom, right? It's going to be fatter, thicker, wider as it gets closer to his body. So something like that. Could be angled the other way. It could be straight, however you want to do it. It's just basically making a really long, skinny rectangle. Skinnier at the top, wider at the bottom. All right. Next, I want you to do an oval right around there, kind of on top of this funny little half circle that we did. And then another rectangle, tall and skinny, like so on top of that. I know this looks funny, like just building up all these weird shapes, but I promise that it will work out together in the end. And then you're going to go like this. Two diagonal lines, kind of connecting that and that, like so. And right here, where these lines meet this rectangle, that's about where the eyeballs will go So I want you to make a couple rectangles, kind of like that. Excuse me, did I say rectangles? I meant circles. Haven't had my coffee yet this morning. There we go. We've got a rectangle. We've got a half circle. We've got this oval egg shape and a couple other circles up here, rectangle, and whatever that guy is. And believe it or not, it will come together kind of like that. So from here, I'm just going to kind of curve this, connect to those eyeball shapes. And then this, from the eyeball down, I notice it kind of curves in and goes back out. So if you can do that as you connect it down, great. If not, even just drawing it straight will work. And if it's looking funny, a lot of drawing comes down to proportions. Proportions meaning the size of things compared to each other. So if any of these shapes are looking kind of weird and funky to you, check out their proportions, their sizes compared to each other. So these eyeballs, these circles here, should be around the same size. This one's a little more ovally here, but they're not much bigger or smaller than this oval. And this rectangle is smaller, and in the middle, it's obviously much smaller than this next shape. This half circle is a bigger circle shape than any of these, but it's only half, right? And then we have this kind of funny triangle shape. So just make sure that the sizes look about right in comparison to each other. All right. Next, he's got his horns, and they connect right here. I'm just going to do a couple lines to start. He's going to look like a bug or an alien, but that's okay. A couple lines, another oval. This is smaller than these circles and ovals, like so. And draw another couple lines like that, because those are not just pure lines. They're not just little sticks. They're a little thicker. And then once I have that, I'm going to kind of curve it. I'm going to actually let them sort of connect to each other with a giant U shape in the middle, kind of like that. We will be adding on, don't you worry, adding on lots of fun stuff to this to make it look right. All right. And now we just need to get the ears in. I've noticed they kind of connect just above the eyeballs. So I'm going to make a couple little diagonal lines here to remind myself just where they go. And then just coming out maybe 1/2 inch or so. Of course, that depends on the size of your canvas. Hard to say for sure, but just a little space. And then out, kind of connected to that line we just did. Just make a little square to start. That's all you got to do. Trying to keep it really simple shapes. I want this to be beginner friendly, easy and relaxing for everybody. Notice that these squares here are not too much bigger than the eyeball shape, not too much bigger than the nose. You know, they're all kind of similar. They are about to get bigger because what we want to do is now connect this on top of this like so, and then give it a little pointy triangle there. And if all you can do over on this one is literally just make a triangle like that, that will get you the start of a good ear too. I let my brush curve and sort of draw the shape a little bit more on that side. And what I can do here on this side is now kind of come over my square and my triangle and start curving it. And see how that's kind of coming together to make an ear? And this is shape theory. It's actually, it can lead on to more advanced art as you go further with it. But learning to make simple shapes and then eventually think of them in 3 dimensions and break all living things down into those shapes will help you make them look 3D, help you really get your proportions and your sizing right. So now I have just this open space here. And notice I've just sort of curved my brush as I connect, and I'm just going to kind of do that. I hope that works. I hope that wasn't too hard for you. this is not maybe the easiest thing in the world to draw. I realize that, but I was trying to make it as simple as possible. So make it look really funny at first with just circles, rectangles, ovals, stuff like that. And then you can start to kind of fix your outline and help it look a little more organic, right? Don't worry if he looks like an alien at first. He will come together in the end, I promise. Okay, one more drawing thing real quick before we move back to the background. I'm just going to kind of remind myself that his nostrils go in here in this shape that we made. So I made that a little bit more of a triangle inside of our oval. There we go. And I think that's shaping up to be a nice looking giraffe. All right, so put your smallest brush to the side. And now what I think is so fun, you can switch back to your biggest brush. I always kind of dab it over on my rag to get rid of excess water after it's been sitting there for a while. And I'm just going to dip straight into my cerulean blue with my clean big brush. And we're going to go over the top of the pink. It should be dry enough. It might be a tiny bit tacky, but honestly, acrylics dry so quick that after all that drawing, it should be good to go. And I'm going to just start painting my blue right on top of my pink, which I think makes for a really fun, colorful dynamic. It also kind of gives you a chance to outline things a little bit more as you go. Look how bright that color is. I don't mind if little bits of pink show through. I actually kind of love that, and that's part of the effect, putting the blue over top of the pink. So unless the pink is bugging you, I'd say go for it. Embrace a little bit showing through. Maybe it's like sunset on the savannah or something, right? Now, if this is a little scary when the color, the background color gets close to your, awesome drawing that you just spent some time getting just right, you can always skip to your smallest brush. That's definitely a technique that I've used and other art teachers have taught me, especially in children's classes. If you switch to your smallest brush with that same background color and do a little outline over the whole thing, it can kind of make filling in the background less scary. So outlining it, creating a little protective barrier, that's one way to do it. I often skip that. That's just because I'm used to my brush, so I know how to get it close enough. But in here, where there's some smaller shapes, it actually is pretty helpful. So up to you, but that's just something to know about. And I'm going to switch back to my biggest brush. And I don't care if I've got a little pink showing through or I'm not perfectly outlining it, because that giraffe is still in progress. And like I said, I actually love a little bit of the pink showing through here. I think it's just going to make the whole painting so much more vibrant and fun and obviously colorful. So down here, you'll notice I have been a little bit sparingly with my blue paint so far down here. And that's because I think I want it to have just a little sense of sky and clouds. So I waited to put my wet blue on here on the bottom because I want to dip into my white real quick. Check this out. It's just kind of a fun effect. it's mixing right there on your canvas. You don't have to mix on your palette. You can if you want to beforehand, but I think it's kind of fun to just do what they call a wet into wet technique. That blue paint is wet, so I can mix a little white into it while it's wet, lightening that blue a little bit, and that just sort of gives an extra fun little effect of sky, gives a little bit more interest to the paint. And you know, there's this rule that generally, it of course depends on the weather, but generally the sky is lighter at the horizon. So the closer you go to the ground towards the bottom, it gets lighter. So if you're ever looking for just a way to add just a little bit of visual interest to a painting with a mostly flat blue sky background, if you just give it that slight hint of a gradient of the blue being just a little bit darker at the top and then getting just a little bit lighter, adding that touch of white into it at the bottom, that automatically gives you a quickie extra sense of realism. That's kind of nice and fun. And you know, depending on what you do with your brush, you can almost get like cloud effects. That wiped up a little too much of the darker blue. Got some of my blue back on my brush. Going back in there. Patching that up a little thicker blue. All right, I like it. How about you? I hope so. Hope it's sort of starting to magically look like a giraffe too. Isn't it fun how it kind of comes together at the end? There we go. All right, so I'm done with this big fat brush. Probably won't even be using it for the rest of the painting. I'm gonna let it sit in my water cup. You don't want to let your brushes sit in the water all day by any means, but for just while you're painting, that's fine. And then you can just clean brushes out with regular soap and water when you're done with your painting. Okay, so we're ready to move along and start getting some detail and color into our giraffe. All right, now I've got my medium brush, and what we need to do is mix up a color. Remember how I said I totally spaced and didn't put my cad red out because I was thinking we're not using cad red, but we do need it to mix up an orange because we don't have an orange in this set. Now let me show you this. I got cad red on my brush and then I added some yellow into it, and look, it still pretty much looks like cad red. So a little tip is to find an area on your palette where you can maybe put just a couple dabs of the red, but you want to actually mostly start with the yellow. If you go yellow into red, having done a bunch of red first, it'll take forever to make an orange. But if you can go the other way, you start with the yellow and just dab a couple dabs of that cad red into it, or just only have a couple to start. It will help you not go too crazy with the color and mix up a nice, beautiful orange. So cad yellow, see that? Cad red, mixing into an orange. And now we get to start bringing this guy to life, kind of giving him some spots and some different color, and that'll make him look realistic. Okay, so with my orange, I'm gonna just start making little, almost, but not quite square shapes. And for me, my medium brush here is almost perfect to where I just sort of lay it down a little bit and it makes the size and about the shape that I want. So it depends on your brush, of course. You can just sort of play with it and see what you get. But if all you can do is start making little squares, like even if you got to do this and this and this, fill it in, and then just come kind of wiggle your brush to give it a little bit more of an interesting shape, you will be in a good position. So notice I am leaving space in between all these shapes, letting that pink show through. I'm just kind of giving him his spots, like I said. Orange paint on top of the pink. And there we go. I think that looks awesome for the neck. So next, I noticed that his mouth tends to be a little more orangey. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in this half circle shape, that first one I drew, and make that like that. And then just a couple more spots with the orange, and then we can move along. Up here, right before the horns there, it's often darker, so a little more orange. So I'm just gonna put my orange there. In the middle of the forehead, I'll often see some orange tones. So I'm gonna put some there, and I'm actually gonna draw a line down, filling that in. And then just the top of the ears, just like kind of almost just a quick outline at the top. Little orange there. And then I'm going to switch to my smallest brush just so I can have a little more control, a little more handle on detail. And I'm going to get that same orange color I just mixed up. And there's just a couple more places I want to get it, but I want it to be smaller. Over here, just under the eyes, there's usually a couple smaller detail spots. All right, and now another fun color we get to do. I'm gonna mix it a bit first. You can use your small or medium brush to mix it, up to you. I'm getting some yellow that hasn't been messed up previously by red on it. And in a new section over on my palette, I'm gonna find a spot that doesn't have any paint on it. I'm gonna put some yellow there. I'm gonna start digging into some white, mixing that with my yellow over here. It doesn't have to be a perfect color mix here. It's really just up to you. I just like to have sort of a lighter yellow, not the pure cad yellow, and also not bright white. I want kind of a yellowish white color, and that's going to be the lighter toned fur color that we see in the giraffe. So now, I think this is kind of fun and relaxing. You go in here and you paint it around the orange spots we just made and kind of on top of the pink that was there originally. Gives you a chance to kind of play with those shapes a little, maybe make them look a little bit more interesting, more giraffe-like. There's no exact rhyme or reason to them. They're not circles, they're not squares. Some are big, some are small. The real key to making things look natural and organic is variety. Just don't make any two the same and try to make some bigger and some smaller. And some medium. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with the neck as it's looking so far. Next, I want to use this color, again with my small brush, so I have a little more control for details. And I'm going to start adding some detail in here to the face. The first thing is these eyelids. We have these big round shapes for the eyes, but the eyes aren't quite that big or wide. So I'm just going to kind of go like that. Little upside down U shape. And then I'm going to make another one and another one like that for his face. And I don't mind if some brown and some pink shows through. The camera cut me off for just a moment, and so it didn't capture me making these lines. Sorry, technical difficulties. Still a newbie YouTuber, learning along the way. But I basically just from the corner of the eye down to the nose, made some slight diagonals falling along the nose ridge down there. Still with that white and yellow mixture. Next, I want to put just a line, sort of a circle curve line right under where the eyes are going to be. And now I want to give him a little bit of a highlight, little outline on his mouth shape. And you know what? The mouth, it's kind of funny. It's not quite this perfect circle. I think they have a little bit of sort of funk and curvature to their mouths. So I'm just going to do something like that. If you can kind of come in there and just make some sort of slightly wiggly line that follows mostly that half circle, you'll be in good shape. And then I want to come with that color and kind of go here into the ear, kind of go along the bottom of the ear with the yellow, white. And next, remember how I said there's going to be nostrils here? Well, we still got to put our really, really darks in later. But for now, I just want to kind of, again, remind myself where they are and give them a little highlight that looks like that. Just sort of a little curvy line in the nose like that. And then I'm going to do a little dot right here and right here, because sometimes there's a little highlight right under the nose too. And one more line here. They just sort of have these like really big pronounced eyelid, eyebrow areas. So I want to just come back, get a little extra highlight on that. And here and there, you can just find some places to just add little details of this color, like just a teeny bit of yellow in there. I want to put almost like the light is catching right there on top of his head. And sometimes they kind of have a little bump in their head that gets a little light too. I am just sort of fussing with detail here now. You do not have to do all this. It will end up looking a-okay, I promise you, even if you don't do all that. But another one I would recommend going in here and kind of coming around some of these shapes and lines we made on the side of the face. Notice for me that just meant kind of like a zigzag line, almost an S shape on that side. Maybe a little bit more right here. And I think we're good to go with that color. Now we're gonna switch gears. We've been kind of working on some highlight, lighter fur tones, and now we're gonna go back and get darks in again. Now we had some with our outline, but a lot of that's kind of gotten covered up, and that's part of the process. It's just layering and layering and layering, and that's what's great is a lot of these kind of funkier shapes, a lot of those weird circles and rectangles we made are starting to get covered up, but they don't have to be perfectly covered up. If they show through a little bit, that's just going to add to texture and the fur underneath. But we are going to switch now, like I said, smallest brush still, but switching to the burnt umber color back to our brown. And I'm just going to show you where we can put that. There are some darker parts on this giraffe. One of those is in the middle of the ear, and I'm just kind of making some little fluffy line brush strokes. There's no exact shape that you got to get, just some lines kind of in the middle of the ear. Same up here on their horns. They have a dark patch of fur up there. The horns have kind of like a little fur that likes to stick out. So as I'm filling this in, I just kind of let my brush flick up a little bit as it's kind of coming out. Oop, maybe a little too much there. Notice I can just wipe it real quick with my finger. Catch it before it dries. Sorry, my dog's running around in the background if you're wondering what all that noise is. Don't have the heart to make him stop. Yeah, so something like that for those horns. Now I want to come here and just go under the highlight I did already on the mouth and kind of give it a little stronger line, little funny lip line like that. And the nose, we haven't done too much with the nose yet, but right here kind of on top of the nostril area where I did those little highlights, there's kind of like a line. And then if you want, you can kind of bring that down in the middle and kind of give it a little darker area right there, like that for the nose. And then there's some kind of lighter, I'm not pressing too hard on my brush so that these come out a little sort of fluffy, fuzzier feeling, but kind of filling in some of that area. Notice I'm just kind of making some light lines, brush strokes like that to make it look like fur. In the middle there, kind of the bridge of his nose. Let's go ahead and fill in some of the eyes. We're going to come back with a darker, almost black color to really make them pop out, but they're starting to just look funny with nothing there right now, right? So I'm going to kind of give myself some circles, kind of starting to bring them to life, right? And one thing I think is so cute and adorable, this is up to you, you don't have to do it, or you could do it really lightly if you want, but I think they have these really cute eyelashes. So just at the top of the circle, kind of like pulling my brush out like that, making those eyelashes. So cute, right? I promise it'll come together. Looks a little silly right now without pure black in the eye, but we'll get there. All right, and now with the brown, I'm actually going to re-outline the neck. This gives me a chance to fix anything about the shape that I don't like. Also just helps it kind of pop out, stand out, and gives it a little bit more organic shape by not being quite so perfect. Same thing, I want to do the cheeks, just kind of giving them a stronger line here. They're just sort of curving in like so. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of a dry brush technique. Dry brush is where you have a little bit of the paint on your brush and then you wipe it kind of back off on your rag or tablecloth or whatever, and you don't have it really wet and drippy. And check it out. That's going to allow me to kind of go like this on top of the orange, making kind of a lighter brown that shows through some of the orange and also kind of gets us like a fur texture. I got to get a little more on my brush, wipe it back off a bit, make some lines, kind of get fur. See how it's coming together? So we still see that orange, we see the white and yellow and the pink, but we're getting a little bit more realistic color here by dry brushing some brown. So you just go lightly with the brown on top of it there. I'm going to kind of do the same thing while it's on my brush. Come back in here just because I think that needs to be darkened a bit. And one area I want to come back now with just a regular amount of paint on my brush. I'm looking at it saying that this needs a little outline like so. See that? I kind of just outlined the top of the nose with my brown. Coming together. I know this is actually a pretty complex drawing process in between all our colors here, but I really hope that your giraffe is starting to come to life and looking just as cute and as fun and happy as mine. I'm happy with it. A couple lines in here, kind of in between the highlights, those yellows that we did like that. And I think I want to just sort of use my brown to outline a little bit of what's happening up here with his horns meeting his ears. And you just kind of go around and figure out where, like if you're looking at a picture of a giraffe, you don't have to. I hope you can just follow along with me and that should be fine. But if you want to pull up a picture on Google to check it out, they're all going to look a little different because they all have slightly different patterns, right? But look at the places where you see the darkest fur and also kind of shadows that define shapes. All right. It's coming together slowly. It's happening. Next, we're going to rinse out our smallest brush. And I'm going to show you the trick to make those darkest darks. So I didn't put my phthalo green out earlier, but now would be a time to. If you have that from this particular set, that phthalo mixed in with the brown can give us that almost black color that will help everything pop out. Have to be a little careful how much of which one you put in. Just kind of go back and forth till you get a nice looking dark color. I will say if you have black handy nearby, there's no black in this set, so that's why I try not to use it for these videos in case you're buying the exact same set as me. But if you have a black, it would be really helpful here and you would get to skip this step. You wouldn't have to mix up a dark brown. You could just go for the pure black. I'm going to go like that and like that for those eyelashes again. And then now that I have this darker tone, I'm going to come in here and do little lines for the nostrils. And that really pops that out. See? Up here in the horns, it's a little darker sometimes, so I'll do a couple really darkest darks right there. I think right here as the ear connects to the body, sometimes there's a really nice dark line. And just a little more, once again, popping out that lip out from the neck behind it. And I might just use a little of the dark to re-outline the neck a little bit. Maybe one other spot would be up here. All right. And finally, we're on to the final last step. Are you so glad? It's a good feeling, right? To be at the end. So I am still using my smallest brush, rinsing it out real good so that it's pure and clean. And now I'm going to get white, just pure white. I want to be careful to not be too heavy-handed with this white, so I'm going to kind of just maybe roll a little bit, get some excess off. But now we get to come in with some really fun, cool highlights here at the end. For one, a little bit right around the mouth. Up top the eyes, kind of making those half circle shapes again. Just a little bit under the eyes. You'll notice in a lot of cases I'm just going over places we already did the light yellow highlight, but I'm trying to not go over it completely, not all the way, just a little sort of extra, keeping it smaller. That really sort of brings the right attention. In here, bottom of the ear, I think a few little lines on top of the yellow to make it like fur texture is great. Maybe even just a little bit at the top of the ear. And just a little bit on top of some yellow spots. Down here in the neck, I'm not going to cover over all the yellow I already did. I'm just kind of adding a little bit, some dots, almost fur texture again, of white in some places on top of my light yellow to really kind of pop that out. I feel like a little bit more under this eye is needed. There. And kind of want to just curve this a little bit. This is not an exact science. I know you probably wish it was, right? But all the giraffes are all a little teeny bit different. They all have their own patterns, and this is where you kind of just personalize it and make it cute and fun and how you want, hopefully. So I'm just looking for places where I think a little bit of extra white, a little highlight could bring a little bit of extra oomph to this painting. And kind of trying to keep my lights on top of my lights and my darks with my darks. Maybe I'll give him like a little bit of a, just like a little fur there, almost like a little mustache. And here comes the funnest part. You want to get a decent amount of white on your brush, kind of rolling it again to a point so that all that white is there at the tip. And then highlight. I love this step. It always sort of brings to life the animals at the end. Isn't he so cute? I think he's looking great. I'm just, like I said, looking for little places where maybe I just want a little extra something, something. There's no exact step now to this. Just making him look good. What do you guys think? I think he's super cute. I hope you had a good time. I hope you're happy with it. If you're not, the key is to kind of just go back to whatever step you are sort of frustrated with and do it again. Acrylic painting is all about layering. I know sometimes that's not fun, but it's so forgiving that way. I feel like it's so great for beginners. And rewind, go back to the part that you struggled with and try it again. Just put the paint right on top. And I promise you, all those extra layers will just add to the sort of lusciousness of the paint, the thickness, the texture, and in this case, the fur of our giraffe. It will make him really come to life and look good. One last little thing. I just decided I need a little extra dark right there. But yeah, I hope you had a great time. My name is Carrie. Again, this is Private Paint Party on YouTube, and I'm kind of new to this. At least the online version used to do it for many years, but I'm hoping it's translating, and I'm hoping each video gets better every time. And just thank you for giving me your time today. I hope that you're happy with what came out, and maybe this is like an adorable painting for a baby nursery or a children's room or something like that. Feel free, if you have any questions about supplies or steps or anything, write them in the comments and I will try to respond as quick as I can. And I hope everybody out there has a wonderful day and keeps the art in the heart alive. Thanks so much, you guys. Take care.